Today we have Professor Stephan van der Walt here. He's in Japan. Stephan, very welcome. I
Thank
would
you.
love you to just tell us what you're busy with at the moment, where you're at in life, and just what's happening in terms of your context.
Thank you very much, Andre. It's a privilege to share. We've been in Japan as a family, my wife Karina and I and our 4 children, for the past 11 years. And we were sent here by a specific church in South Africa, and I'm involved in a seminary where at the moment I teach pastoral care and pastoral theology to theological students who are training for ministry. So that's my basic task. But except for that, I'm also involved in many churches and presenting seminars and doing leading of camps and stuff like that in church environments. So several ministries that enhance the teaching at the seminary.
Yeah, Stephan, I mean, we've known each other for years and years, back from theology and other connections. And I know it's
Yes.
sort of groundbreaking because it's the first time in history, I think, or in that area anyway, that you're doing pastoral care in Japan.
Well, yes, a specific church which we're involved in, called the Reformed Church of Japan, has about a 70-year history, and in that time there's never been taught the subject of pastoral theology and care. So maybe in a sense there's a good sync between what the Lord has provided me to be able to bring to the context and what they feel as a need in the church. So yes, we're glad to be here and to make a small contribution.
I'm trying to get sort of different stories. You know, we've been in lockdown for a bit in South Africa, and we almost in a sort of a global wilderness at the moment. So I'm wondering what's the context like for you in Japan with the virus and the pandemic. You haven't had lockdown as such like we did, but yeah, just tell us a bit about that.
Yes, thanks. It's been a little bit different, as you say, from the South African context and many European or American contexts. Because of the Japanese law, the government doesn't enforce in a strict way these type of lockdowns. They cannot do it. The constitution doesn't allow it. But in typical Japanese culture, if you ask someone very nicely, then normally the people obey. So it's been a very nice request from the government since already mid-March, except for schools being locked down and businesses being closed. It's been a request to all the people of Japan to persevere in this time, not to go out for any unnecessary, things except for buying food and stuff like that. So it's been a different type of lockdown, and restriction of movement has been maybe less severe, but still there's been this, I could say, general anxiety, uncertainty in the lives of people, and a disruption for certain in many similar ways than in the rest of the world. But the emergency situation that has been ongoing since about 6 weeks ago has now been lifted. About, I think last week it's been lifted. So there's maybe a sense of normality coming back to life. But now the second wave of infections are probably on its way. So people are very vigilant still. Yeah.
So during the time that things were different, was there anything specific that you missed, or maybe you and your family missed?
Yes, for certain. We've been restricted in terms of our movement. So for me, not just teaching at the seminary, as I said earlier, my involvement in church ministry countrywide is a big part of my job. So in the last 3 months, I've not been able to, not allowed to travel to do several ministries. So I've sensed that as a lack of interaction with people on a physical level, eye to eye. So I miss those interactions, and it's the stimulus that comes from that. It also enhances the teaching at the seminary. As a family, we've been missing field trips. As a homeschooling family, we do homeschooling in 3 languages, mainly English, but also our home language Afrikaans is part of it, and obviously Japanese is a big part of our teaching as well. The homeschooling environment creates flexibility to do things at our own pace, but now, unfortunately, we've been sort of restricted in terms of movement and field trips and stuff like that. So we've missed that the past few weeks. Just the freedom to sort of take a break when we want to, and go out somewhere. That has been less possible. So that's been a restriction.
And during this time, I mean, being almost forced to do things differently, is there anything that you can almost sort of claim that you think I really want to hold on to this?
Yes, thank you. I think that's been an opportunity. I mean, to say it's a pandemic in the same sense, it's a crisis. The word, I think, comes down to and boils down to an opportunity, a time to discern for something new. So it's been an opportunity for me personally and for us, and I think for so many others, to discern, in a sense, what life is about, where your priorities should be, and what is really important. So I've been trying to slow down. I mean, we've been forced to slow down, which was a good thing, just to get a break from the normal pressure of work and going about. So that was a very good thing, and a time to reflect on what is really important and how to go forward. I think I've been thinking a lot about themes like, having patience, being able to wait, and being able to persevere in circumstances that are not ideal or not as it usually is. So in the disruptedness, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to get new perspective on, as I said, things that are significant, but obviously to get creative about new things that might develop from this, which we didn't even expect. And I think that is what a crisis brings. It brings, as I said, an opportunity to discern and to creatively go forward in new ways. So I'm still sensing, what it is that this has brought to us. It's going to take time. It came at a time for us, specifically as a family, when we would have gone to South Africa for 4 months for the first time in 3 years. So that was cancelled. So it was after 6 months of planning for that visit. So it's a total sort of, disappointment, obviously, but in the same sense now, a fresh look at next year, hopefully, and how will we then, go forward from there. So it's good as well, not just bad.
Yeah, I said it's like a global time of wilderness, and it's amazing how people in different contexts sort of say the same thing. You use the word wait, and I think the word liminal from liminal space, I think in Latin can also be translated as waiting room, and I think in South Africa that sort of waiting emphasized for us the differences between context and rich and poor, because for some people waiting means go and waiting in their holiday home, and other people sort of wait in a 3 by 3 shack and have one chair to sit on. So that sort of waiting has, different wisdoms and different pain for different people. I'm wondering, just as a family, or maybe personally, was there any rhythms that helped you during this time? Almost not necessarily rituals, but yeah, sort of specific rhythms.
Yes, thank you. We obviously love to eat, all of us, but so family rituals of eating have become even, I think, more special. Just time at the table, even taking a little bit more time to making the food extra special, maybe extra tasty, in a sense, and celebrating that as in especially in the time when it was the severest of restrictions and limitations. I think we enjoyed that, and that even was filled with new meaning for us as a family, just to have that time to reflect. We love reading at the table, actually, so reading to our kids is a big part of homeschooling, especially Karina, my wife, does that a lot. So in this time, even that time of reflection and reading has brought, I think, new creativity to us as a family, and that's one rhythm and ritual which we've kept up, which brought a bit of sanity in the uncertainty and the disruptedness. And another thing that we could do a little bit more in the past week or three, especially since the restrictions were lifted a little bit, is that we went out, especially on an off day, maybe once a week at least. We try to do that, to do some hiking in the mountains, and we've just been refreshed and invigorated by nature, because it's spring now. Actually, it's soon becoming summer. Then it's even impossible to do that. But just being in nature, just seeing the wonder of God's creation, and exploring and being there together as a family has been really a good rhythm and a ritual that has kept us, I think, intimate and sane and healthy in the time being, body and soul.
Yeah, it's almost like the senses is coming back. You're talking about tasting the food and seeing beauty, and it's like we see and we hear and we feel and we taste differently. So, great opportunity, I think. So I'm wondering from that, maybe just lastly, any sort of wisdoms that came to you during this time? I think it's a time where we're very philosophical and very wise, and I'm wondering, will we be able to put all of this into practice, when things go back to normal? But any wisdom that came to you during this time, maybe?
don't know if I should call it wisdom, although, maybe it's just a recognition of and a new fresh appreciation of something. And that is specifically that I think it's a unique time in world history, especially for us in this generation. We would probably not have much of this in our lives. We haven't had much up until now, and probably might have not even have the same opportunity from now. We'll see how it spins out. But what has happened to me is, I think, an opportunity to reflect about, how we go forward from this as a church, as a seminary here, as missionaries. We have been sent here. How do we now, I think, engage in new ways, whether it be with our supporters in South Africa or with students directly here? It's been a fresh opportunity to discern that there's environmental issues coming to the fore, political, economical issues, much bigger than I can have control of. But I can sense that in that, we, one by one, as individuals, are also challenged to ask how we should be involved in those issues in society now in fresh ways. So I've not spun my head around it yet. But in that, if I can say, the one thing that has come to me specifically has been the text of which I had to preach about the last couple of 6-7 weeks, and was in Romans 5-8 about the suffering of creation, but that God co-suffers with us through His Spirit that also intercedes for us, although we don't have always the words to pray. So that has been a deep sort of, not just text to dwell in, but also a theme in my life to really sort of physically, existentially sense that God is with us in the struggle, and He is interceding for us in ways that the groans of our deepest desire cannot even, put into words. So that realization has been quite vivid to me in the last couple of weeks. So I want to take that forward and ask, how can we apply that in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure the influence that you have on students' lives, it's very important to discern about that. What is this sort of bringing to us? And I really hope that also for you as a family, for you and your family, that it's a time. I know it's a time of uncertainty. I know that you from whenever I got to know you, you get up very early in the morning. I know in Japan you got up early to study the language. So that there will be enough time to do everything, and I'm also very grateful for this few moments that you've given us to just reflect on our rich, different experiences during this time. Maybe anything to close with. I think your last message was quite hopeful, but anything to close with, maybe?
Well, we're really, really looking forward to see all of you in person. So that's probably a longing which I would like to just share. I think we're pulled forward by the great, how should I say, sense of knowing that God will provide in the future, and that we will, walk into something new that God is already there pulling us forward to. So that gives me hope to go forward to. And we're looking forward to share with you in person next year, hopefully.
Stephan, thank you very much for your time and your wisdom, and I really hope you and your family is okay. And speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. You too.